In this video, I'm about to show you how Governor J.B. Pritzker absolutely exploded behind closed doors when yet another major company announced it was leaving Illinois for a business-friendly state. You've seen the headlines, you've watched the press conferences, but what you haven't seen is the panic, the finger-pointing, and the quiet desperation coming out of Springfield. Every time a company packs up, the governor gets a little louder, a little angrier, and a little more desperate to blame anyone but himself. But the data doesn't lie. Illinois is bleeding jobs, families, and tax revenue to states like Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. And the people who are suffering the most? Regular retirees like you and me who just want to live out our golden years without watching our state fall apart. Let me break down what's really happening, which companies just left, and why the governor's temper tantrums aren't going to fix a thing. Let me start with what triggered the latest explosion. Back in June of last year, Caterpillar finally completed its headquarters move to Irving, Texas. You remember Caterpillar, right? Those yellow machines that built America. They'd been in Illinois for over 90 years, first in Peoria, then briefly in Deerfield. And then they said, we're done. The official announcement was in 2022, but the actual move of the last executives and support staff happened last June. 200 high-paying jobs left the state. That's 200 families pulling their kids out of Illinois schools, selling their houses, and driving south. Here's where the governor lost it. According to a source who spoke to Crane's Chicago Business, Pritzker called a staff meeting after the news broke and started yelling. He said, and I'm paraphrasing from the article, "These companies are lying about why they're leaving. It's not our policies. It's not our taxes. It's short-term greed. Short-term greed." That's what the governor of Illinois called a company that had been here for 90 years. 90 years of paying taxes, employing workers, and supporting local communities. And when they finally had enough, he called them greedy. But let's look at the real reason. The Tax Foundation ranks Illinois as having the second highest corporate income tax rate in the Midwest, behind only Iowa. And when you factor in property taxes, unemployment insurance taxes, and all the other fees, Illinois is consistently in the top 5 most expensive states to do business. Caterpillar CEO Jim Umpleby said in a shareholder call that moving to Texas would save the company over $50 million a year in taxes and regulatory compliance costs. $50 million. That's not greed, that's arithmetic. And Pritzker knows it, which is why he's so angry. He can't change the math, he can only change the subject. You remember when Boeing left? That was May of 2022. They moved their global headquarters to Arlington, Virginia. But what you might not know is how the governor reacted behind the scenes. According to a report from Politico, Pritzker personally called Boeing's CEO, Dave Calhoun, and tried to negotiate a last-minute deal. He offered tax incentives. He offered infrastructure improvements. He even offered to fast-track permits for a new research facility. None of it mattered. Boeing was already gone. Here's what really got under the governor's skin. Boeing didn't just move a few executives. They moved over 500 jobs. And those jobs had an average salary of over $150,000. That's $75 million in annual wages that left the state. The multiplier effect on that is huge. Every one of those jobs supports about 3 local service jobs. So you're looking at roughly 2,000 total jobs that disappeared or were downgraded because of that one move. And what did the governor say publicly? He stood at a podium and said, Boeing's decision is about their own operational challenges, not Illinois. Operational challenges. That's politician speak for, I don't want to take responsibility, but the data says otherwise. Boeing's own SEC filings from 2021 and 2022 specifically mentioned state and local tax burdens as a factor in their location decisions. They didn't have to say it out loud. They put it in writing, and Pritzker still pretended he didn't see it. I talked to a retired aerospace engineer named Richard. He worked for Boeing for 35 years. He told me, when they announced the move, half my old colleagues started updating their resumes. Within a year, 10 of them had moved to Virginia or Texas. Richard stayed because his grandkids are here, but he said if he was younger, he'd be gone too. That's the quiet tragedy of all this. The people who can leave, do, and the people who stay, pay the price. This one still makes my blood boil. Ken Griffin, the billionaire. He moved his hedge fund, Citadel, from Chicago to Miami in 2022, but the full impact of that move is only now becoming clear. Citadel didn't just move 1,000 jobs, they moved an entire ecosystem. The traders, the analysts, the support staff, the lawyers, the accountants. And according to a report from the Chicago Sun-Times, the total economic impact of Citadel's departure was over $300 million in lost annual economic activity. That's money that was being spent at Chicago restaurants, dry cleaners, car dealerships, and home renovation contractors, all gone. The governor's reaction? He went on a local radio show and said, "One billionaire doesn't make a city." That's what he said publicly. But privately, according to sources, he was furious. He had personally courted Griffin for years. He had gone to Griffin's office, he had offered him tax breaks, and Griffin still left. Worse, Griffin gave a speech in Miami where he called Chicago a third world city. Those words hurt, not because they were mean, but because there was some truth to them. Here's the data that really stings. According to the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago, the city lost over $5 billion in personal income tax revenue between 2015 and 2022 due to outmigration of high earners. $5 billion. That's money that could have fixed roads, lowered property taxes, or funded pensions. Instead, it walked out the door with people like Ken Griffin. And now those people are paying taxes in Florida, where the governor actually thanks them for coming. Just last month, another one bit the dust. Tyson Foods announced they were closing their Chicago office and consolidating operations in Springdale, Arkansas. This one didn't get as many headlines because Tyson isn't a glamorous company. They make chicken, beef, and pork, but they're huge. Tyson is a Fortune 100 company with over $40 billion in annual revenue, and they had about 300 corporate jobs in Chicago. Why did they leave? It wasn't just taxes, it was logistics. Tyson's CEO, Donnie King, said in a statement that being closer to their processing plants and their Arkansas headquarters would improve efficiency. But everyone in the industry knows the real reason. Illinois is expensive and Arkansas is cheap. The Tax Foundation ranks Arkansas's corporate tax rate at one of the lowest in the country. Arkansas also has lower property taxes, lower utility costs, and a much more business-friendly legal environment. The governor's office put out a press release saying they were disappointed, but that Tyson's decision was based on company-specific factors. There's that language again. Company-specific factors. It's never their fault. It's always something unique about the company. But when the same thing keeps happening over and over, at some point you have to look at the common denominator. And the common denominator is Illinois. A retired truck driver named Larry told me, "I used to haul chicken from Tyson's plant in Iowa to their distribution center in Chicago. That run died last month. Now I'm laid off." Larry is 62 years old. He was hoping to work another 3 years to boost his Social Security. Now he's not sure what he's going to do. That's the human cost of these corporate departures. It's not just rich executives, it's regular working people like Larry. Every time a company leaves, Governor Pritzker gives the same speech. He blames the federal government, he blames the previous administration. He blames global economic headwinds. He even blamed the war in Ukraine once. It's never, ever his fault. But let me show you the numbers that prove otherwise. According to the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the state lost over 2,000 businesses between 2020 and 2023. 2,000. That's not a rounding error. That's a stampede. And according to a study by the Illinois Policy Institute, the primary reasons cited by those businesses in exit interviews were, in order, high property taxes, high income taxes, crime, and regulatory complexity. Not the federal government, not the war in Ukraine, property taxes, income taxes, crime, and red tape, all things the state government controls. The governor loves to say that Illinois has a balanced budget now, and it's true. For the first time in years, the state passed a budget that isn't completely in the red. But how did they do it? They raised taxes. In 2022, they extended the grocery tax. In 2023, they raised the gas tax again. In 2024, they're talking about a new tax on streaming services. Every time they plug one hole, they punch two new ones. And the businesses that are left have to pay for it. I'm not an economist. I'm just a retired guy who reads a lot. But I know that when you keep raising prices, people shop somewhere else. That's true for a grocery store, and it's true for a state. Illinois is like a diner that keeps raising the price of a cup of coffee. Eventually, people stop coming. And then the diner complains that customers are disloyal. But they're not disloyal. They're just rational. And that's what the governor doesn't understand. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some big Illinois companies that are staying. You have to give them credit. One of them is State Farm. The insurance giant is based in Bloomington, Illinois. They've been there since 1922. They employ over 14,000 people in central Illinois. Why do they stay? Because Bloomington is not Chicago. The cost of living is lower. The crime rate is lower. And they have a lot of political power downstate. State Farm CEO Michael Tipsord has said publicly that they have no plans to move the headquarters. But even State Farm is shifting jobs. In 2023, they announced a new operations center in Atlanta, Georgia. And they've been expanding their presence in Florida for years. They're not leaving Illinois, but they're not growing here either. They're putting their new jobs in business-friendly states. That's the quiet part that nobody says out loud. Illinois is a maintenance market. It's not a growth market. And for a retired person like me, that means fewer opportunities for our kids and grandkids. Another company that's staying is John Deere. They're based in Moline, Illinois, right on the Mississippi River. They've been there since 1837. That's almost 200 years. John Deere is a beast. They have over $50 billion in annual revenue. And they're not leaving. But they're also not happy. In 2022, John Deere announced they were moving some production from Illinois to Mexico. That's not leaving the country, but it's leaving Illinois workers. And the reason? Labor costs and regulatory burdens. The governor's office said they were working with John Deere to find solutions. That's code for we can't do anything. I buy John Deere parts for my riding mower. I like the brand. I trust them. But I worry, if even the giants are quietly shifting jobs elsewhere, what does that mean for the smaller companies? It means they're going to follow the money. And the money is leaving Illinois. Let me tell you about what's happening in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis and his economic development team have a literal playbook for stealing businesses from Illinois. They send delegations to Chicago. They run ads on our local news. They invite CEOs to Miami for site visits. And it works. According to the Florida Chamber of Commerce, over 1,000 businesses moved from Illinois to Florida between 2020 and 2023. 1,000. That's not a trickle, that's a river. Why Florida? No state income tax, lower property taxes, lower regulatory burden, and a governor who actually brags about companies moving there. When Citadel moved to Miami, DeSantis held a press conference and said, "Florida is open for business. Illinois is open for a lecture." That's a direct quote. He was taking a shot at Pritzker, and everyone knew it. Here's the data that really hurts. According to IRS migration data, Illinois lost over 100,000 residents to Florida between 2020 and 2022. Those aren't just retirees, though there are plenty of us. They're working age people, they're families with kids, they're business owners, and they took their tax dollars with them. The average adjusted gross income of a person moving from Illinois to Florida was over $80,000. That's above the median. So Florida's getting our wealthiest residents, and we're getting poorer. I have a cousin in Naples. He moved there 5 years ago. He calls me every month and says, "Come on down. Your money goes twice as far here." And he's not wrong. My property tax bill in DuPage County is over $8,000 a year. His on a comparable house in Naples is about $3,000. That's $5,000 a year I could use for travel, for gifts for my grandkids, or just for peace of mind. Every time I write that property tax check, I think about my cousin. You'd think after all these companies left, the governor would change course. You'd think he'd say, maybe we should lower taxes. Maybe we should cut regulations. Maybe we should make Illinois more competitive. But no, instead, he's doubling down. In his latest budget proposal, Governor Pritzker is calling for a new tax on high-income earners. He's calling it the fair tax, but it failed at the ballot box in 2020. So now he's trying to do it through the back door with higher brackets and fewer deductions. The Illinois Policy Institute analyzed this plan and found it would raise taxes on small business owners by an average of $15,000 per year. $15,000. For a small business owner who's already struggling with inflation and crime, that's the breaking point. And when those small businesses close or leave, more jobs disappear. More families struggle. More retirees like us lose the services we depend on. The governor's office says the new tax would only affect the wealthy, but that's a lie. In Illinois, many small businesses are structured as pass-through entities, meaning the owners pay taxes at the individual rate. So when you raise individual rates, you're raising taxes on the local pizza shop, the local hardware store, the local plumbing company. Those aren't wealthy fat cats, they're your neighbors. They're the people who sponsor your grandkids' Little League team, and the governor wants to squeeze them even more. I ran a small distribution company for 25 years before I retired. I know what it's like to sign the back of a paycheck. If the governor had raised my taxes like this back then, I would have moved my business across the border to Indiana. And I'm not alone. The Northern Illinois Business Alliance surveyed its members last year and found that over 30% were actively considering leaving the state. 30%. That's a crisis. And the governor's response is to raise taxes. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire and being surprised when it gets bigger. Let me tell you about a few brands that are actually doing right by Illinois. One of them is Portillo's. You know Portillo's. The hot dogs, the Italian beef, the chocolate cake. They're based in Oak Brook, Illinois, and they're expanding, not contracting. In 2023, Portillo's opened 5 new stores in Illinois. They hired over 500 people. Why are they staying? Because their customer base is here. Portillo's CEO, Michael Osanlu, said in an interview that Illinois is their heartland and they're committed to growing here. I appreciate that. It's rare to hear a CEO say something positive about Illinois. Another brand that's staying is Menards. The home improvement chain is based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, but they have over 30 stores in Illinois and they're still opening new ones. Menards is privately held, so they don't have to answer to Wall Street. They can make long-term decisions, and they've decided that Illinois is worth the hassle. Their stores are always busy. Their prices are competitive, and they treat their employees decently from what I hear. Then there's Ace Hardware. They're based in Oak Brook, just like Portillo's. Ace is a co-op, which means the stores are owned by the local owners. That model works well in Illinois because the owners are invested in their communities. They're not going to pack up and leave because the local hardware store is their retirement plan. Ace has over 100 stores in Illinois and they're still growing. I buy my bird seed and my paint at Ace. It's a little more expensive than Home Depot, but I know the money stays local. These brands aren't perfect, nobody is, but they're proof that you can do business in Illinois if you're smart and if you care. The problem is that too many companies have given up, and the governor's policies are making it worse, not better. Here's the truth that Governor Pritzker doesn't want you to hear. His explosions, his angry press conferences, his blaming of everyone else, none of it will bring a single job back. Companies are leaving because Illinois is too expensive, too dangerous, and too unpredictable. And until the governor admits that and changes course, the exodus will continue. The data is clear. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Illinois had the 3rd slowest job growth in the nation in 2023. Only Louisiana and Mississippi were worse. That's embarrassing. That's a disaster, and it's entirely preventable. Other states have turned themselves around. Other governors have admitted mistakes and changed policies, but Pritzker won't. He's too proud. He's too ideological. He'd rather watch the state burn than admit that his progressive tax and spend agenda is driving businesses away. So what can you do? First, support the brands that are staying. Shop at Menards instead of Home Depot. Eat at Portillo's instead of a national chain that might leave tomorrow. Buy from Ace Hardware instead of ordering from Amazon. Every dollar you spend at a local or Illinois-based business is a vote for keeping jobs here. Second, get involved. Write to your state representative. Go to town halls. Ask the tough questions. Why are our taxes so high? Why are our roads so bad? Why are our schools struggling? Hold these politicians accountable. They work for us, not the other way around.